The metaverse. It is still a hotly debated topic when it comes to its relevance, its utility. Like, is it actually going to be the future of the internet? Is the internet going to be turned into a virtual world that, people congregate in? Is it really going to be such an integrated part of our world, this virtual environment, that it's going to revolutionize the way we connect? There are plenty of doubts surrounding this concept because of the way it's being presented. So far, the metaverse it's not a topic that's gained a lot of traction among the masses, and it's gotten to a point where there are a number of people declaring that the metaverse is pretty much as good as dead, at least for now. And honestly, I'd have to agree with this sentiment. There's just nobody seems to be talking about the metaverse. Now, AI, that's kind of becoming the new frontier of things, for better and for worse. And that's a whole other topic. But as far as the metaverse is concerned, you've got this Business Insider article that I think painted a pretty good picture and aptly presented the current state of this concept that Facebook, now Meta, is trying to push for. And scrolling down, you'll find information about the way the metaverse was kind of kickstarted as this hype train for businesses and corporations, and how that hype slowly died. Now, there are those who are trying to keep the hype going and are insisting that the metaverse is far from dead. And I'm going to talk about a take from Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney in a moment that I think just does not present an accurate picture of things. Here's a little teaser of what Tim Sweeney said. Basically, he's declaring that actually the metaverse currently has 600 million monthly active users. When you look at Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, PUBG Mobile, Sandbox, and VR Chat, which I think is such a poor counter argument and a misleading way of presenting what the situation of the metaverse currently looks like, this whole concept of Web3. And I'll delve deeper into that once I kind of go through the Business Insider article that I think very aptly breaks down how Metaverse has played out in the last few years and its current downwards trend, and why it's just a concept that doesn't seem to be catching on. So let's dive into this article first. The Metaverse is a descendant of the 1982 movie Tron and the 2003 video game Second Life, is kind of the way this article describes it. Think Mega Man Battle Network, right? And the way you can dive into this virtual environment as an avatar, and that environment is very closely tied to our real life elements as well, where everything is connected through this virtual world. And, it sounds like a sci-fi concept that, who knows, maybe one day will come to be realized. But as of now, it just feels like a lot of money is being wasted on a concept that is not appealing to the masses. A lack of coherent vision is something that Business Insider points out. A lack of coherent vision for the product ultimately led to its decline. Once the tech industry turned to a new, more promising trend, generative AI, the fate of the metaverse was sealed. Mark Zuckerberg claimed that the metaverse would be the future of the internet, a future where we'd be able to interact seamlessly in virtual worlds. Users would make eye contact and feel like you're right in the room together. The metaverse offered people the chance to engage in an immersive experience. And there's like a degree of that we have now that VR is kind of becoming a bigger part of society, I suppose, though growth of VR has slowed down. But you got things like, VR chat and stuff like that where people can congregate. But that just feels like a more advanced form of just other, essentially MMOs, where it's more about the social aspect. But what the metaverse is it's a far bigger concept that sees the whole world sort of connected like the internet connects the world, except in a virtual environment instead of just through, text and through websites or whatever. It's an environment they can inhabit that is also kind of like the internet. That's why I call it Web 3, like the next generation of web or whatever. That's the promise at least, but the actual technology failed to deliver on this promise throughout its short life because of things like low quality avatars and just a far more dumbed down version of the actual concept. These low quality avatars are a stark contrast to the futuristic vista shown in Meta's splashy introductory video. Referring to this video right here where Mark Zuckerberg shows you a concept video, like a vertical slice of like how he thinks the future could look like. But we're so far away from this, and you look at Horizon Worlds right now, and it pales in comparison to what this is presenting. Like this is Technology is not there yet. And while, this seems like a cool little gimmick, are people really going to engage this way? When it comes to ping pong, why not just play the real ping pong? I suppose if you're like distances away, yeah, you can play these games in the form of essentially video games, but video games already exist. And what the metaverse is trying to do here is just, it doesn't really seem to have a clear vision of what it offers that existing technologies and existing software doesn't do. They talk about a future where you're going to have meetings with people through avatars in a virtual space where you can play games or work and whatever. But these avatars look significantly more advanced than what we have now. And even if we get to a point where avatars have this level of fidelity, cool, yeah, some cool video game stuff. But this is just video games at the end of the day. The metaverse concept of sort of unifying the world and taking the internet to the next level in the form of a virtual world. The article here aptly points out that there is an acute identity crisis with the metaverse. The VR platform Horizon Worlds, which required the use of an incredibly clunky Oculus headset, failed to suggest anything approaching a roadmap or a genuine vision that the masses could comprehend, that made people go, oh, I see what this is. I see how this could actually benefit my life, instead of just granting corporations more control over my personal information, over just being able to collect data about the way I behave and whatever, so they can sell more ads. Zuckerberg claimed that 1 billion people would use the metaverse and spend hundreds of dollars there, despite the Meta CEO's inability to say what people would be receiving in exchange for their cash, or why anyone would want to strap a clunky headset to their face to attend a low-quality cartoon concert. Maybe one day VR will advance enough where the concerts can feel a lot more like you're actually there, but right now, if that's all the metaverse has to offer, then it's just not enough. It seemed that every company had a metaverse product on offer because Mark Zuckerberg pushed the concept of the metaverse so much, and everyone was like, ooh, Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who became one of the richest people on earth and who created one of the richest companies on earth. Oh, he's onto his next thing. Let's follow that hype train. Let's follow that gold rush. But I feel like he led a lot of these companies astray. Every company had a metaverse product on offer, despite it not being obvious what it was or why they should follow this trend. Microsoft roadblocks NFT companies like Bored Ape Yacht Club and digital land sellers, Walmart, Disney, all of them try to launch their own version of the metaverse. And you've got insane claims like this one from consulting firm Gartner that claimed that 25% of people would spend at least 1 hour a day in the metaverse by 2026. It's 2023 right now. In 3 years, I guarantee you that 25% of the world population will not be spending an hour a day on the metaverse. Like, this is such a wild prediction that we're nowhere close to. Some have predicted that the metaverse could generate trillions of dollars in revenue and value and whatnot, trillions of dollars in money-making opportunities. That's what companies are after. They're not actually trying to present a product that's actually compelling to us. They're just kind of throwing this buzzword out there, this concept, and then going, how do we shoehorn this into some kind of buzz fest that will bring people in and hopefully we can monetize this? They're thinking about the money-making prospects before thinking about whether this is actually something people want. And unfortunately, people don't want this. When people are actually offered the opportunity to try it out, nobody actually used the metaverse. Business Insider presents plenty of examples that I've previously talked about. Decentraland only had around 38 daily active users, and the company tried to claim, no, that's not true. We have 8,000 daily active users. You're not presenting that much of a better case. That's still paltry compared to frickin' the MMOs that people play these days that have millions of players and whatnot. Horizon Worlds, less than 200,000 monthly active users, which is dramatically short of the target that they had. And not to mention, 9% of user-created worlds were visited by more than 50 players. It's a wasteland, this metaverse concept. Without people to inhabit it, the metaverse is a universe that nobody wants to live in. It's a world that nobody wants to participate in. If there's nothing to do there, no people to really interact with, and there's no reason for people to jump in because the concept is just so soulless and so lacking in genuine beneficial elements. And so eventually companies like Microsoft, Disney, and Walmart shut down their metaverse endeavors. Mark Zuckerberg himself, Meta itself, shifted from the metaverse to focusing more on AI because that's kind of where things are trending right now. And this is a technology that is actually gaining traction, again, both for better and for worse in different respects. While the idea of virtual worlds or collective online experiences may live in some form, the capital M metaverse is dead, declares Business Insider. Will it come back in some way, shape, or form that's more compelling in the distant future? Who knows? But as of right now, I would agree that nobody gives a shit about the metaverse. You know, outside of the very few niche groups that are into like NFTs and whatever, and think this concept somehow can generate them revenue. The masses aren't really talking about this or seem all that interested. The death of the metaverse should be remembered as arguably one of the most historic failures in tech history. Mark Zuckerberg never seemed to define it beyond a slightly tweaked Facebook with avatars and cumbersome hardware and just more cumbersome ways of doing things you can do in real life. The fact that Mark Zuckerberg has clearly stepped away from the metaverse is a damning indictment. That's the thing, even Meta seems to have kind of given up. They haven't shut down their division or anything. They're still like developing it, but the focus has shifted away completely. The enthusiasm is a lot lower now. So far, I feel like Business Insider is kind of right. I agree with a lot of what they had to say in that article, but someone who doesn't agree is Tim Sweeney, who tweeted about this article, linked to it, and then had this to say about that whole piece. The metaverse is dead. This is sarcastic. The metaverse is totally dead. Let's organize an online wake so that we 600 million monthly active users in Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, PUBG Mobile, Sandbox, and VR Chat can mourn its passing together in real-time 3D. Basically claiming the metaverse is thriving. Look at these experiences. Look at these software products: Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, PUBG Mobile, Sandbox, and VR Chat. But the response that is most apt to this comes from this tweet by Jess from Windows Central. This is exactly what I was thinking. Isn't that just video games? LOL. I don't know how Tim Sweeney is defining the metaverse, but what we're talking about is Web3. Again, this concept of an interconnected world, kind of like how when the internet became a thing, not only did we suddenly have a new form of communication, but we could do things like shop through the internet. We could access our bank accounts through the internet. Everything became digitized. Remote work has become much more prominent, especially in recent years after COVID put everyone on lockdown. There's so much stuff we can do through the internet that has real life implications. Web3 is attempting to take all of that to the next level by finding interpretations of all of those that could fit in a virtual world environment. And if that's not the definition of the metaverse, and it's just basically shared world experiences or MMOs or whatever, then the metaverse is just another buzzword for massively multiplayer online video games. And if that's what the metaverse is, then it truly is a buzzword, because it's nothing new. These have existed for many, many years. Tim Sweeney here claims, is the internet just a big LAN? Sometimes the scale of a thing induces a phase change, which gives it an entirely different utility than the smaller version. And look, sure, it's kind of cool to be able to enter VR chat, right, with your VR goggles and have kind of a more personal feeling, more direct interaction with people compared to your traditional video games, or you're looking kind of from the outside in. Having that VR headset goggle on and looking around, being able to like shake people's hands virtually or whatever. Like, yes, there's something to that, but that's just heightened interactivity for what are still ultimately just video games. It's just video games with new innovations, new perspectives, new hardware that allows you to interact with those games differently. But the utility of the software so far is just, it's to play the games of Fortnite, of Minecraft, of Roblox, of PUBG Mobile, of, all these things. VR chat is a bit more social for sure, but is it Web3? Tim Sweeney here highlighting these games and saying that there are 600 million monthly active users on the metaverse is incredibly misleading. What you're highlighting here, Tim Sweeney, are players, not monthly active users of the metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg is envisioning in terms of Web3. Jess also has a retort to Tim Sweeney's argument that, well, is the internet just a big LAN? Sometimes the scale of something induces a phase change, what gives an entirely new utility. Jez, I think, aptly highlights that LAN to internet is a wildly different phase change versus Habbo Hotel to VR chat, in my opinion. Straight up, the internet is essentially like the big public interconnected version of LAN. LAN is more sort of isolated and private. The internet straight up changed the world. It changed the way we interact with each other. It changed the way the world functions, straight up from a utility standpoint. Whereas, as Jess aptly highlights, Habbo Hotel to VR chat, at the end of the day, does it ultimately change the world in the way that the internet did? As Jess aptly highlights here, just because video games went from 2D to 3D doesn't mean we stopped calling them video games. It didn't turn into something else entirely. It just was the next evolution of video games. It wasn't a revolution of the way we interact with the world, which is what Web3, what Metaverse is trying to do. It's trying to change the world, right? It's trying to change how we connect, how we interact, how we just do things in real life through a virtual world. Today's Metaverse is just boardroom buzzwordism, in my opinion. I agree with this. So far, not impressed. Neither am I. I feel like Tim Sweeney's twisting the definition of the actual vision of the metaverse. Again, the whole concept of Web3, which Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, PUBG Mobile, Sandbox, and VR chat are absolutely not. And trying to present this fake notion that the metaverse is alive and well and thriving. He's just talking about player numbers here, not metaverse active users. The metaverse doesn't really even exist. You know, the concept hasn't really been fully realized. If you think about it, Horizon World, which Facebook is trying to, or Meta is trying to sell as the metaverse, it's just a glorified video game with a buzzword attached to it. It's not doing what Web3 is actually set out to do. The vision is still just a vision. It's still a concept. And it's a concept with so little hype behind it or so little excitement behind it because it's hard to gauge what corporations are trying to do with this technology or this idea, what kind of benefits it's trying to present. That, yeah, many outlets are arguing that Metaverse is as good as dead. You know, AI has killed Zuck's Metaverse because that's kind of where things are trending. And despite this dying trend of the Metaverse, despite the fact that the Metaverse currently, in the current vision that it's being presented in, with the current technology that we have, and with the current proposition of what kind of utility this will actually offer, which so far doesn't seem to be a whole lot, Meta insists on just wasting money, throwing billions and billions of dollars at this thing. Meta's Reality Labs unit has had $3.99 or $4 billion operating loss in the first quarter after losing $13.72 billion last calendar year. So now we're up to roughly $17.72 billion-ish spent on the Metaverse. Meanwhile, the company's laying off, tens of thousands of employees. More and more corporations who thought this was the next big thing are all just basically backpedaling and backing away and are pursuing AI ventures instead. It's a pretty bad look for Meta right now. And it's a pretty bad look for Tim Sweeney to come out here swinging with this giant miss of an argument that is woefully misrepresentative of what this article is actually saying. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the current state of the metaverse, what Tim Sweeney had to say here, and whether you think the concept of the metaverse will one day be realized in a way that's compelling enough that it's going to become the new norm, Web3, or do you think the metaverse is some corporate fantasy that will fade away and that will become just a buzzword, a fad that will die out, which is currently what seems to be happening? Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.